more excellent QCCs this week. There's two questions in particular that were really just excellent, cut to key things that we're doing, and I'm going to focus on those in this answers to your QCC segment. The first of those questions is just clever, brings up something that is really smart and interesting and relates material across a couple units. So first, involves the Compass questionnaire and the Fifth Amendment. So a couple people asked about the Compass questionnaire and asked, look, does a person even have to answer questions regarding their background, regarding their attitudes, if they are a defendant in a criminal case? And I'm not sure. I actually think this is a live, interesting question of constitutional law. And I looked into it a little bit, and my best guess is that this does raise a Fifth Amendment issue. So the Fifth Amendment issue is one that we briefly touched on last week, and that is that one has a right against self-incrimination. And that right of self-incrimination has several parts. It has to be self-made. Any protected statement has to be self-made. It has to be incriminating. It has to be testimonial. There's this, but these are the key elements. And the issue here is that Compass statements might be incriminating if they are potentially used in sentencing, right? They do appear to be testimonial. That is, the value of the answer is, what is the content of what one responds to the questionnaire. It's not like other things, other kinds of evidence that don't fall within certain Fifth Amendment exceptions. But somebody raises this question, and I haven't seen it analyzed in law. I looked around a little bit, but if I am a lawyer, but if I were a lawyer representing a client in a case like this, I would go down this Fifth Amendment pathway. So really nice. A couple people asked different versions of this, but nice insight. The second really important question that cuts to the heart of some of the things we were talking about in the Compass discussions is thinking about two different potential uses of Compass and how they relate to substantive fairness. So I argue, and this is something that we saw in the reading from Chapter 3 and also came out in the presentations, that whether use of a system is substantively fair can turn on context. So I argued that using Compass in sentencing may be substantively unfair, whereas using it in allocating scarce resources may not be substantively unfair, may be substantively fair. And this gets conflated with the claim, and the fact of the matter, that Compass has different false positive and false negative rates, that is different sorts of classification errors depending on the race and ethnicity of defendants, right? So higher false positivity rate for a risk for black defendants than for white defendants, and higher false negativity rates for white defendants than for black defendants, right? So one way that Compass might be substantively unfair is on that grounds, is on race and ethnicity disparity. Another grounds, though, is this idea about what kinds of information ought to be relevant in making determinations. So a couple people asked this idea that how is it possible for Compass to be substantively unfair for sentencing, but not for allocation of resources? And the idea is this: Compass scores are based and do seem to correlate with lots of social factors, such as housing security and insecurity, drug and alcohol addiction, employment, one's family situation, whether friends or one is known over time have been incarcerated, right? And those are factors that I argue are substantively unfair for basing sentencing decisions, because one is not responsible for those kinds of issues. One is responsible for what one's family situation is like. One isn't responsible for housing insecurity. One isn't responsible for one's addiction. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't elements of responsibility tied up with those, but it does mean that those are not grounds for basing punitive actions. On the other hand, when it's allocating resources based on need, for example, based on one's family situation or housing security or employment prospects or addiction issues, that does seem like a substantively fair ground to base a decision on. These are distinct issues of substantive fairness beyond how Compass and other risk assessment systems reflect race and ethnicity, right? That's a different category, potentially, of substantive unfairness, right? So the substantive fairness about the grounds for decisions differs by use. That's the key point here. So a couple of people raised this confusion about why it should be substantively unfair in one circumstance and substantively fair in another. It's because the basis for the kinds of decisions is substantively fair in one case, and substantively fair in one case, and substantively unfair in another case. Again, excellent questions. Y'all are really raising great insights here. I appreciate it.